Ever met someone who walks through chaos like it's just background noise? No matter what life hurls at them, rude comments, long days, unexpected drama, they remain untouched. What if that kind of calm wasn't luck or genetics, but something you could actually learn? Some people go through life like they're shielded from the storms the rest of us get swept up in. A tough day at work barely dents their mood. Someone speaks to them with disrespect, and they don't even blink. Life throws obstacles their way: financial stress, family conflict, unexpected problems, and they keep moving forward with steady steps and calm minds. Meanwhile, for most of us, it's the little things that throw us completely off course. A vague text message, a snide comment online, someone cutting us off on the highway, and suddenly, our whole emotional state changes. We're overthinking, spiraling, wondering what it means, replaying it in our minds for hours. It feels like we have no control over how we feel, like we're at the mercy of every outside influence. But here's the truth: you do have control. You've just never been shown how to use it. Those people who stay calm, composed, and emotionally steady in the middle of chaos, they've learned something powerful, something that dates back thousands of years to the Stoics, ancient philosophers who discovered that real power comes not from controlling the world, but from mastering how we respond to it. When you stop allowing the external world to dictate your internal state, you become something extraordinary. You become unshakable. You become truly strong. You become free. And that is what this video is really all about. How to stop letting things that don't deserve your energy steal your peace. How to stop reacting to every small trigger, and how to start living with clarity, strength, and real emotional freedom. If that sounds like something you've been searching for, there's one small action you can take right now to help support this message. Hit the subscribe button. It costs nothing, but it helps us keep creating content that truly matters. So, let's get into it. Think about this. How much of what upsets you isn't actually real, not in the way you believe? You're not reacting to events themselves. You're reacting to the meaning you attach to them. A look from someone across the room, a delay in a text response, a tone of voice that sounded off. It's not the moment that hurts, it's the story we build around that moment. And the problem, no one ever teaches us that. We grow up being taught to react to what we see and hear, but never to stop and ask, is what I'm perceiving even true? Or am I seeing this clearly, or through a lens of insecurity, fear, or assumption? This is where most people get stuck. We say things like, she made me feel small, or that ruined my day. But pause. Did she really make you feel that way? Or did you interpret her words through your own filters and allow that meaning to run wild in your mind? The Stoics had a saying, it's not the things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. And that's not just a philosophical idea, it's a psychological truth. Way before modern psychology gave us terms like projection and cognitive distortion, the Stoics were already pointing to the root of emotional suffering. Picture this: you're at the gym, and someone glances at you and frowns. Immediately, your mind kicks in. Are they judging me? Do I look weird? Did I do something wrong? But maybe, just maybe, they weren't even looking at you. Maybe they're dealing with something in their own life. Maybe it had nothing to do with you. But in a flash, you've constructed an entire narrative, a drama, a critique, all from a moment of uncertainty. Carl Jung once said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. That's exactly what's happening here. You're not reacting to reality. You're reacting to the story your mind created in its place. Most of us aren't seeing the world clearly. We're seeing it through the fog of our unexamined beliefs, insecurities, and emotional habits. So the real question becomes, how do we clean that lens? How do we take back the narrative and our power? That's where we're headed next. And that fog we talked about, it doesn't come out of nowhere. It's built from every past hurt, every rejection, every fear we've buried instead of faced. It clouds our view, distorts our judgment, and turns everyday moments into perceived threats. When your heart has been broken, love no longer feels safe, it feels suspicious. When you've been criticized in the past, even a neutral comment starts to sound like judgment. It's like trying to navigate life with a cracked lens. Everything you see, everything you hear, feels personal even when it has nothing to do with you. Socrates once said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." He wasn't just waxing poetic in some dusty philosophy scroll. He was pointing to something essential: responsibility for your own lens. Until you stop and really examine the way you're seeing the world, you'll stay stuck, trapped in a loop where every minor inconvenience feels like an attack, where every offhand remark cuts deep. And here's the kicker: every time you react, without thinking, without that pause, you reinforce a belief that you're powerless, that you're just a victim of your environment. But you're not. That belief is the illusion. The world can poke you. The world can provoke you. But whether it hurts, that's entirely up to you. What's actually happening under the surface is this: your brain is running an old script. Something happens, your brain assigns a meaning to it based on past experiences, and then you react automatically. It's not conscious, it's fast, it feels real, but it's just a program. Now imagine if you could rewrite that code. What if, instead of reacting, you paused just for a breath? That tiny moment, that space between the stimulus and your response. That's where your true power lives. Aristotle captured this beautifully when he said, "Anyone can become angry, that is easy. But to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, for the right purpose, and in the right way, that is not easy." And that, right there, is the foundation of emotional intelligence. It's not about suppressing what you feel. It's about becoming skillful in how you let your emotions move through you deliberately, consciously, not compulsively. Here's a life-altering shift you can make today. Start questioning your emotional reactions, not with cynicism, but with honest curiosity. When something triggers you, when you feel that emotional spike, pause and ask, is this really about them? Or is this touching something deeper in me? That single question can break the spell. It interrupts the old pattern. It opens the door to a new way of seeing. Instead of living like a puppet, yanked by every emotional string, you begin to move through life like a person, clear, grounded, centered, present. Plato once said, "Reality is but a shadow of the truth." And it's true, most of what we perceive as real is just a version of reality shaped by our thoughts, emotions, and assumptions. So, ask yourself, is this moment the truth, or just my interpretation of it? And if it's just a story I've told myself, do I still want to keep telling it? The people who stay calm under pressure, who don't get rattled by petty slights or chaotic moments, they aren't emotionless, they're clear. They've trained themselves to stop reacting on autopilot. They've mastered the pause, and the more they practice it, the more space they create within. That space becomes peace. That peace becomes strength. And that strength becomes a quiet kind of power that doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. And here's the beautiful truth. This journey isn't about being perfect. It's about becoming aware. Every time you catch yourself about to spiral, and choose not to, that's a victory. Every time you pause instead of explode, you grow. Every time you question the story instead of blindly believing it, you reclaim your mind. So next time something pushes your buttons, don't ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Ask, "What inside me is allowing this to affect me?" That's where the real work begins. That's how you move from being a puppet of your emotions to the quiet master of your mind. Because Stoicism was never about being emotionless. It was about learning to master your emotions so nothing and no one can shake your peace. And in the next part, we'll explore exactly how to practice that pause and what tools can help you build that unshakable core. Previously, we talked about unplugging that emotional control panel, the one others use to access your insecurities, fears, and reactions. Now let's look at what happens when that panel is finally disabled. When you no longer feel the need to respond to every little spark. You don't flinch. You don't feel the urge to clap back, defend yourself, or over-explain. You don't even feel the sting the same way you once did. And no, that's not indifference. That's power. Socrates once said, "He who is not a good servant will not be a good master." If you can't govern your own emotions, how could you possibly steer your life with clarity and direction? When you finally disconnect from the need to react, you taste a kind of freedom that most people never even realize exists. You're not rushing to reply to every message, not anxiously analyzing a delayed text, not personalizing situations that were never truly about you. That silence, those pauses become your strength. You start to feel steady, grounded, like a rock standing firm in the middle of a storm. People begin to notice, not because you're shouting, but because your peace is impossible to shake. It becomes magnetic. Some might call it coldness. Let them. What they don't understand is that what appears to be emotional detachment is actually disciplined presence. It's not you shutting down, it's you refusing to hand out your inner peace, like it's free candy at a parade. Previously, we explored the power of detachment not as coldness, but as a sign of inner clarity. Now, we take that awareness one step further into the realm of presence and power through silence. You notice the tension, but you don't let it enter you. You sense the chaos in the room, the unease in someone's tone, and instead of absorbing it, you simply observe. You say to yourself, they're clearly going through something. And just like that, you release it. You don't carry their emotional baggage as your own. Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." And that line hits hard because often, what sets us off isn't really about the other person. It's a reflection of our own unresolved stories, our projections. Now let's talk about something incredibly powerful, something so underrated in our modern world that most people never even recognize it as a skill. The pause, silence, restraint. We live in a culture that trains us to snap back, to defend ourselves, to prove our point. Someone throws shade, and we're conditioned to fire back immediately. But what if, instead of reacting, you paused, not forever, just a moment, a breath, a single beat of silence? You hold that space not because you're scared, not because you're weak, but because you are in control. That space between what someone says and what you choose to do next. That's the birthplace of power. Marcus Aurelius said it best, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. That pause is your power to revoke, to take back control of your interpretation, your emotional landscape, your peace. And once you discover that, everything begins to change. You start to starve the drama. Drama feeds on your energy, your reaction, your attention. Gossip only spreads when people respond. Arguments only explode when both sides keep fueling the fire. Toxic people, they live for your reactions. They need them. But when you stop feeding the chaos, when you stop giving them what they want, the drama starves. The beast weakens, and eventually, it dies. Aristotle once said, to avoid criticism, say nothing, do nothing, be nothing. But here's the twist. The silence we're talking about isn't for approval. It's not passive. It's intentional. It's strength in its purest form. You're not avoiding conflict, you're refusing to waste your time on nonsense. Now let's be real, this isn't easy. We live in a world that rewards noise. The louder you are, the more dramatic your response, the more attention you get. But that kind of attention, it's hollow, it fades. It's like junk food for your soul, fast, sugary, but never nourishing. The people who are truly strong, they're often the quiet ones. The ones who don't need to respond to every jab. The ones who can take an insult, a setback, a challenge, and remain still. Socrates once taught that self-control is the foundation of wisdom. He wasn't wrong. When you manage your reactions, you're not just sidestepping trouble, you're building something deeper. Substance, character, depth. So no, being unbothered doesn't mean you're cold. It means you've grown. You've learned the true cost of your peace, and you've decided it's too valuable to give away. Not every fight deserves your energy. Not every insult needs a response. Some things, they're just noise. And when you stop dancing to the tune of chaos, the music begins to fade. Here's the mindset shift that changes everything. Not everything is about you. Not every look, every tone, every delayed message is a personal attack. And even when it is personal, that still doesn't mean it deserves your reaction. You choose what gets to stay in your mind. You decide what takes up space in your day. And the more you practice this, the art of silence, the discipline of restraint, the lighter you feel, the stronger, the more rooted. Like the world can spin and shout and shake, but you remain unmoved. You remain clear. So when someone looks at you and says, "You've changed," smile. Because yes, you have. You're no longer here to be dragged into every emotional fire. You're here to walk through flames and never get burned. And in the next part, we'll uncover how to keep building that fireproof mindset, even when the world around you is full of sparks. In the last part, we explored how stepping back from reaction isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Now we take a deeper breath into what that inner stillness truly creates. Stoicism doesn't ask you to ignore life. It doesn't pretend challenges don't exist. What it asks quietly, but firmly, is that you master your response to life. And when you begin to do that, when you stop letting every comment, every glance, every shift in the outside world rattle your core, that's when you start to live on your own terms. There comes a moment, it's not loud, not dramatic, no cinematic music playing in the background. In fact, it's so quiet you might almost miss it. But inside you, something shifts. A click, a soft, steady recognition that feels like taking a deep breath after years of holding it in. It's the moment you stop caring, not in a bitter, detached, or careless way, but in a wise, intentional, beautifully freeing way. You stop giving pieces of yourself to things that don't deserve them. You no longer leak energy into arguments, approval seeking, or fear. And something incredible happens. The world begins to shift and return. At first, it's subtle. People who used to poke at your insecurities start to back off. That one comment, the one that would have kept you up all night, it no longer sticks. The mental tug of war you've been playing with your past, with other people, with your own regrets, it loosens. The rope drops. You begin to realize just how much of your stress was self-created, how many of your battles were fought against shadows, projections, and assumptions. Most of what once consumed your energy wasn't as real as you believed. It was your reaction, your attachment, your story. And now, without that reaction, life feels lighter. That's the essence of emotional stillness. The Stoics believed that tranquility wasn't just a side effect of wisdom, it was the ultimate form of it. Marcus Aurelius put it clearly: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. And when you stop reacting to everything, the world starts to lose its grip on your emotional state. You become unshakable, not loud or defensive, but calm, present, grounded, immovable in the best possible way. But here's the truth. Most of us were conditioned to do the opposite. From childhood, we were programmed to react, get stressed, panic, get criticized, defend, fail at something, spiral into shame. It's like we were handed a set of emotional scripts, already written, and whenever life hits a nerve, boom, we hit play and run the same scene over and over. But what if you rewrote the code? What if stress showed up, and instead of scrambling you just breathed? No flailing, no drama, just breath. What if criticism landed, and instead of rushing to justify yourself you simply smiled? Not out of arrogance, but because you've stopped giving away your power so freely. Carl Jung once said, The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. But once you do, you become unshakable. Because when you're no longer trying to be someone else, criticism has nowhere to land. Rewriting your emotional habits doesn't make you numb. It makes you free every time you interrupt your automatic reaction. Every time you pause and do the opposite, calm instead of chaos. Presence instead of panic. You're building a new path in your mind. A stronger one, a wiser one. Little by little, your brain learns. We don't do panic anymore. We don't do pointless drama. We do calm. We do clarity. We do peace. And here's a powerful question you can ask yourself right now. What story am I telling myself at this moment? Because every emotion is connected to a narrative. If you see yourself as a victim, you carry pain. If you believe you're the villain, you carry shame. But if you decide you are the hero of your own story, then everything changes. Every setback becomes a plot twist. Every insult becomes rocket fuel. Every hard moment becomes a stepping stone in your rise. Plato once said, the first and greatest victory is to conquer yourself. And that journey of conquering, it begins the moment you choose to own your story. And in the next part, we'll explore exactly how to rewrite that story and what kind of hero you can become when you stop living by old scripts. Aristotle once said, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. And when you truly know who you are, when you're anchored deeply in that self-awareness, no amount of external noise can move you. You're not swept away by chaos, because your foundation is solid. So no, you're not heartless because you don't react. You're not rude for protecting your mental space. You've just had enough of letting others toy with your emotions like they own a piece of your mind. You've unplugged. You've reclaimed the controls. And in a world obsessed with drama and stimulation, that kind of calm, that's a superpower. But here's the secret no one tells you. The world doesn't want you to be calm. Not really. It wants you emotional, impulsive, reactive. Because that's what keeps you scrolling, buying, arguing. That's what keeps the noise alive. But the moment you stop giving the reaction they expect, you interrupt the cycle. You stop being a puppet and start becoming the quiet, steady master of your own reality. That's Stoicism in practice, not just a theory from old books, but a daily, deliberate way of living. Every time you choose not to react, you're training your mind. Every time you choose peace over panic, you're reinforcing your freedom. And somewhere in that quiet, sacred space between stimulus and response, you start to realize nothing out there actually controls you unless you allow it. People might assume staying calm means you've gone numb, that you've checked out, that you don't feel. But let's clear the air. True detachment isn't about caring less, it's about caring better. It's about guarding your peace like it matters, because it does. Because here's the truth. The more reactive you are, the more power the world holds over you. And when everything gets to you, you'll have nothing left to give to what truly matters. The Stoics had a word for this state of clarity, apatheia. Not apathy in the modern sense of giving up, but a noble calm, a soul untouched by chaos. A state of internal stillness that allows you to remain centered, no matter what's happening around you. Imagine yourself like a deeply rooted tree in the middle of a storm. The wind howls. The noise is deafening, but you don't bend. You don't sway. You're rooted. You're present. You're powerful. That's what real emotional strength feels like. And the first step in building that strength, observe, don't absorb. Let's say you walk into a room full of tension. People are snapping. The energy is heavy. Old, you might have absorbed it like a sponge, feeling irritable, anxious, without knowing why. But the wiser version of you, the one we're about to explore next, knows a different way. In the previous section, we explored the quiet power of owning your emotional responses and rewriting your story. Now, let's look at one of the most transformative tools you can use to maintain that power: choosing your frame. When something triggers you and you feel that spark of irritation, anger, or insecurity, pause. Take a step back and ask yourself, What frame am I using here? Because while the facts of a situation may be outside your control, the meaning you assign to those facts, that's always your choice, and over time, that choice becomes a habit. That habit shapes your emotional landscape, your worldview, and ultimately, your peace. So, let's talk about one of the most underrated forms of emotional strength, the ability to disarm others without saying much at all. There's a certain kind of power that doesn't come from shouting, arguing, or proving your point. It comes from stillness, from knowing exactly who you are and not letting someone else's words knock you off balance. It's the kind of strength that radiates without needing volume. Picture this: someone throws a jab your way, an insult, a passive-aggressive comment. Instead of firing back, you hold your ground and you respond with calm clarity. You're too quiet. Yeah, I like my peace. You don't care, do you? Not about things that don't really matter. You think you're better than everyone else? No, I just think I'm better than who I used to be. See what just happened there? You didn't dodge the attack. You absorbed it, softened it, reframed it, and sent it back without losing your center. That's the art of turning resistance into resilience. It's like catching a punch midair and watching it dissolve. That's what Socrates meant, not just in the physical sense, but emotionally, when he said, "No man has the right to be an amateur in the matter of physical training. It is a shame for a man to grow old without seeing the beauty and strength of which his body is capable." But let's take that further. Why should we grow old without ever understanding the strength and beauty our minds are capable of? Why spend your whole life being triggered, reacting, overthinking, when you could train your emotions just like a muscle? Why live every day running the same emotional scripts on autopilot? When you stop investing energy in meaningless noise, you finally create space for what actually matters. You stop defending yourself at every turn and start building yourself from within. You begin to understand that your peace isn't just valuable, it's sacred. You no longer take on every battle, not because you're avoiding them, but because you've learned which ones are worth your effort. You stop trying to prove your worth to people who already decided not to see it. You stop playing along with drama designed to bait you, to break you, to drain your spirit. And in that shift, something powerful happens. You start living differently. You enter rooms without needing to be liked. You speak without needing to be right. You show up with calm, not because you're passive, but because you've trained your presence. You become the person who doesn't just brace for storms, you become the calm within them. You're no longer thrown off by chaos because you've realigned your compass toward what truly matters. And that clarity, that peace, it's rare. Most people never get there. They spend their entire lives defending, reacting, proving, exhausting themselves in the name of validation. But if you keep practicing, even in the smallest moments, if you keep questioning your reactions, if you keep rewriting your mental scripts, if you choose peace over pride, again and again, something starts to change. One day, you'll look back and realize you didn't just survive what life threw at you. You didn't just cope. You didn't just endure. You mastered it. You stepped beyond the reach of external chaos and built a stillness inside that nothing could shake. Because when you stop letting the world control your reactions, you don't become colder. You become clearer. You don't become weaker. You become stronger. And that strength, it's not flashy, it's not loud, but it's unshakable. It's the kind of quiet power that no one, not the loudest voice, not the sharpest insult, not even your old inner critic can take from you. And once you experience that kind of power, that internal clarity and peace, there's no going back. So if this message has resonated with something deep inside you, if you've felt a shift, a spark, a moment of clarity, there's another video waiting for you right now. One that takes you even deeper on this path. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. Thank you for watching, for reflecting, for walking this journey of self-mastery with me through the Stoic Journal. Until next time, stay centered, stay focused, and keep walking the quiet path, the one that leads inward where real power lives.